We got item number 2 on the other paper, communication from the chair.
Good afternoon, honorable members. I think you can hear me.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you very much, honorable members. I think I have to apologize. Yesterday, maybe because I had this particular matter on a separate piece of paper, and with an omission. Because you remember, during the past recess, we lost one of the past prominent members of the assembly, the Honorable Kirunda Kivejinja, who was at one time the minister responsible for the EAC in Uganda, but also deputy prime minister. We had the time to comment on different fora our feelings about his passing, but now we are meeting in the plenary. I want to request you to provide a moment in his memory, because you remember Honorable Kivejinja, despite his advanced age, was a member who was full of energy and commitment to advance the ideals of this community. So we miss him dearly, and we pray for his eternal rest in peace. May I request you that we observe a moment of silence in honor of the late Honorable Kivejinja. May his soul rest in eternal peace. Thank you.
We proceed to item 3 on order paper, report of the Committee on Regional Affairs and Conflict Resolution on the progress made by the community towards achieving the EAC Confederation Constitution and the EAC election observer missions by way of motion.
Honorable Chair. Honorable Chairperson, Committee on Regional Affairs and Conflict Resolution.
Thank you. Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I'd like to move the motion to present the report of the Committee on Regional Affairs and Conflict Resolution on the progress made by the community towards achieving the East African Community Confederation Constitution and the EAC Election Observer Mission. I beg to move.
Second. There's a member I can't see clearly. Honorable Tazana. Is it Honorable Mary Mujani?
Yes, Honorable.
Okay. Thank you. Honorable Nuru, Honorable Kimisa.
Burundi.
Yes, Honorable Momamo, Honorable Christopher, and Honorable Pierre Caravelle. Thank you.
And Josephine.
Yes, Honorable Josephine, I'm used to seeing you here. How did you? Okay.
And Honorable Fancy, Chair.
Okay, honorable members, all who are seconding. Thank you. So, Honorable Chair, move a motion.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. So I move to present the report.
Yes, indeed, present the report. Yes, you're right.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. The report of the Committee on Regional Affairs and Conflict Resolution on the progress made by the community towards achieving the East African Community Confederation Constitution and the EAC Election Observer Mission held on the 20th November to the 3rd December 2020. Introduction. In executing its oversight function, the Committee on Regional Affairs and Conflict Resolution held a virtual activity and interacted with the Department of Political Affairs of the EAC on the progress so far made in the constitutional making process as well as the EAC Political Federation. The activity also focused on analyzing the conduct of EAC election observer missions and made appropriate recommendations to improve the process. The oversight activity took place from 29th November to 3rd December 2020. Objectives of the activity. The objectives of the activity were to assess progress made in the attainment of political federation as the fourth pillar of integration process, assess the progress made in drafting the constitution to anchor the EAC political federation, identify the gaps and challenges faced in drafting the constitution for political federation, analyze the processes and gaps of EAC election observer missions, and finally make appropriate recommendations towards the EAC election observer missions and progress towards attainment of the political federation. Methodology. In undertaking the activity, the committee employed the following methodology. The committee held meetings and interacted with the principal political affairs officer, reviewed the relevant literature on the subject matter, and held virtual committee meetings to prepare the report. Political federation and confederation. Brief history of the concept of political federation. This is the first time an East African Union has been proposed. As nations of the regions gradually became independent following the end of European colonialism in the 1960s, talk of federation was rife. The envisaged federation, however, fell apart amid disagreements between leaders as to how this federation would look like. East African Community was established in 1967, building upon common institutions left over from the British colonial administration. Yet these two collapsed in 1977 amid internal disputes. There were many reasons for the collapse, but they largely stemmed from political differences between the erstwhile leaders and perceptions around unfair distribution of benefits and the cost of regional integration. The EAC was subsequently revived in 1999, and discussions about deepening integration evolved to the point where the partner states were once again envisaging the establishment of a political union through an East African Federation. It is on the above premise that Article 5, Clause 2 of the treaty establishing the East African Community commits the partner states to undertake to establish among themselves and in accordance with the provisions of the treaty a customs union, common market, monetary union, and ultimately a political federation in order to strengthen and regulate the industrial, commercial, infrastructure, cultural, social, political, and other relations of partner states to the end that there will be accelerated, harmonious, and balanced development and sustained expansion of economic activities, the benefits of which would be equitably shared. In a bid to actualize and implement the treaty provision, the summit of the EAC heads of state at the 18th Ordinary Summit meeting in 2017 adopted political confederation as a transitional model of the East African Political Federation and directed the Council of Ministers to constitute a team of constitutional experts to draft the constitution for the political confederation. The Council, in its report in the 19th Summit of Heads of State in February 2018, reported on the progress of attaining political federation and presented the concept note, roadmap, and terms of reference for constitutional experts. The summit directed the Council to prioritize the constitution drafting process and provide the required funding. The summit at its 20th ordinary meeting held on 1st February 2019 in Arusha, Tanzania, directed Council to cause the experts to provide a preliminary report on the proposed confederation model within 7 months. The summit also decided that His Excellency President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni would provide political guidance to the constitutional experts. While the constitutional experts were expected to submit a preliminary report on the proposed confederation model, a number of challenges were encountered that slowed down completion of the planned activities that would have informed the proposal. key tenets that are crucial for political confederation to work. The entities participating in the confederation or partner states retain their sovereignty. The confederal government does not directly relate to the citizens of participating entities. It only acts on their behalf through the political institutions of the constituent states. Thirdly, the constituent states are guaranteed the freedom to join and withdraw from the confederation. The confederation has the right to suspend and or expel a constituent state that violates specified aspects of the federal constitution. The operations of the confederal government depend greatly on the goodwill of constituent state governments. Finally, the decision-making at the confederal level is based on consensus and or unanimity. Progress towards a political federation and drafting the constitution for the EAC political confederation. The EAC Treaty provides for political federation in Article 123, and Article 123, Clause 6 stipulates that the summit shall initiate the process toward the establishment of a political federation of the partner states by directing the Council to undertake the process. Article 123, Clause 7 provides that the summit may order a study to be undertaken by the Council. Pursuant to Article 123, Clause 6 of the treaty, the summit initiated the process toward the establishment of the EAC Political Federation by directing Council of Ministers to undertake the process in 2004. The summit of EAC heads of state established the committee, the WACO Committee, to fast-track the East African Political Federation to examine ways and means of expediting the process of integration. This was followed by a national consultative process which aimed at raising the level of awareness among the different stakeholders on key issues of East African Political Federation. In 2009, the summit instituted a team of experts to make recommendations on how to address fears, concerns, and challenges that had been raised by the different stakeholders towards fast-tracking the political federation. Progress towards drafting the constitution. Since their appointment, the constitutional experts have carried out the following activities. Meeting with the President of the Republic of Uganda, His Excellency President Yoweri Museveni, for political guidance. The meeting took place on 23rd April 2019. The experts also held consultative meetings between April and November 2019, conducted studies and analysis of the EAC Treaty, protocols, laws, and reports, undertook a situation analysis of the EAC integration with a particular emphasis on the previous reports relating to fast-tracking the EAC Political Federation, namely Munanga Report, WACO Report, and the report on addressing East African fears, challenges, and concerns. The experts also identified stakeholders to be consulted, the issues for consultation, prepared an information package for public awareness, and a program for public consultation. The consultation process was officially launched by His Excellency President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni in Entebbe on 18th November 2019. Issues identified for public consultations. Membership to the EAC Political Confederation, areas of cooperation under Political Confederation, governing structure of the Political Confederation, modes of decision-making by the Confederal Authority, the governance principles of Confederation, the relationship between partner states and the Confederal Authority, the funding mechanisms for the operations of Confederal Authority, mode of adoption of Constitution, establishing political confederation, any other issues proposed by stakeholders to be addressed in the Constitution of the EAC Political Confederation. Identified locations for stakeholders' consultations, taking into consideration inclusivity, geographical coverage, location of governments, business centers, accessibility, time and resource constraints. A selection of location has been done for public consultations in each partner state. Information package for public awareness. The constitutional experts developed an information paper to be disseminated to the public by the EAC Secretariat and the ministries in charge of the EAC affairs. Public consultations. Experts have developed a tentative program for public consultation. Committee observation and recommendations. The protocol on good governance. The committee notes that the principle of good governance is one of the fundamental and operational principles of the community. This principle is provided for under Article 6 and 7 of the treaty. The committee was informed that the EAC Good Governance Protocol was initiated as a framework of promoting good governance, rule of law, and human rights within the community. The protocol underpins the objectives of the community that includes adherence to principles of democracy, the rule of law, accountability, transparency, social justice, equal opportunities, gender equality, as well as recognition, promotion, and protection of human and people's rights in accordance with provisions of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. It is worth noting that partner states supported the good governance framework and directed that it should be upgraded to a good governance protocol. However, in 2012, some partner states raised several issues on the draft protocol in relation to economic and corporate governance and whether good governance is an area of cooperation that warrants conclusion of a protocol. The process of finalizing the protocol has stalled with no clear time frame for its completion. Committee observations. Divergent opinions on governance and democratic practices generated concerns on how the Federation will bridge the gap in governance and democratic deficits, rule of law, transparency, accountability, human rights, and access to justice, constitutionalism and prevention of conflicts, equitable distribution of resources, political reforms, and social justice between the partner states. Observance and adherence to universally acceptable principles of good governance are a precondition for any country to become a member of the associated with or participate in any activities of the community under Article 3B of the treaty. There is need to take into account partner states' constitutions while considering the good governance principle and the need for clarity on areas of cooperation under the treaty. Committee recommendation. The committee recommends to the Assembly to urge the Council of Ministers to expedite the finalization and adoption of the EAC Protocol on Good Governance, to enhance harmonization of democratic governance policies, practices, laws, and standards. Furthermore, there is need to finalize other instruments that operationalize its pillars. Progress made towards the realization of the 4 EAC pillars. Committee observation. The committee observed that the EAC Treaty envisages 4 pillars of EAC integration process. These include customs union, the common market, the monetary union, and the political federation. Suffice to note that considerable progress has been registered in the first 3 pillars. However, the 4th pillar appears to be diverting from the ultimate phase of political federation to political confederation. Even with this diversion, the process has been slow and riddled with enormous challenges, and if not properly addressed, will delay the achievement of this milestone. Committee recommendation. The committee recommends to the Assembly to urge the Council of Ministers to fast-track public consultation on political confederation and ensure diverse participation of key stakeholders, including strong engagements with national parliaments, civil society organizations, local governments, private sector, non-governmental organizations, media, and other critical stakeholders for the process to be generally acceptable and inclusive. Public awareness, political will, sovereignty, consensus about integration process. Committee observation. The committee observed that the level of public awareness about the integration process remains low, and this has constrained East Africans from assessing information about the opportunities and benefits accruing from integration or appreciating gains so far made. Although the EAS partner states have close social and cultural ties emanating from pre-colonial times, the social and cultural life in the region is not homogeneous. Differences in post-colonial experiences and varied national contexts have generated cross-border cultural stereotyping and sometimes negative sentiments. Furthermore, most countries are still worried about the loss of political power, national sovereignty, and decision-making. Committee recommendation. The committee recommends to the Assembly to urge the Council of Ministers to urgently revert back to the drawing board and assess what has been achieved and whether EAC is on track with regard to the 3 pillars of integration. Delay in the implementation of the roadmap of the constitutional making process and the various challenges encountered. The committee was informed about the various challenges the constitutional making process has faced. This has negatively impacted on the constitutional making exercise, resulting into delays such as funding, with the required budget of $4.4 million, of which only $450,000 have been raised. The Republic of Uganda offered the first contribution of $150,000 that was used to undertake consultations in the Republic of Burundi. The Republic of Burundi also contributed $300,000, which will facilitate consultations in the United Republic of Tanzania and the Republic of South Sudan. Committee recommendation. The committee recommends to the Assembly to urge the Council of Ministers to immediately convene a meeting and deliberate on the matter so as to raise the requisite funding for the process to proceed. Lack of a fully fledged secretariat to facilitate the constitutional experts. The committee was informed that the process to constitute the team of experts has been derailed because partner states delayed to submit the names of experts. Other countries changed the experts 1 year into the process. The Secretariat is also heavily understaffed, with literally no staff to facilitate the experts on a full-time basis. Ordinarily, the process of this nature would be managed by a team of lawyers, researchers, economists, sociologists, accountants, just to mention but a few. The committee was further informed that the Council was required to recommend the secondment and attachment from partner states to beef up the team at the EAC Secretariat. However, the Council did not respect its obligation, allowing the constitutional making process to be facilitated with only 5 EAC staff officials. Committee recommendation. The committee recommends to the Assembly to urge the Council of Ministers to direct the EAC Secretariat to urgently recruit the necessary on a short-term basis to back up the constitutional making process. Furthermore, Council should expedite the seconding of staff from the respective partner states to the EAC Secretariat to reinforce the lean team currently existing. The link between the fears and concerns raised by East Africans towards fast-tracking political federation and steps to address them. The committee was informed that during the public consultation exercise, various stakeholders expressed fears and concerns towards fast-tracking the political federation. Some of these fears include sovereignty, the issue of sovereignty and attendant notion of loss of national identity, political power, decision-making, and flexibility in exercising powers, governance, and democratic practices. The divergent governance and democratic practices generated concerns on how the Federation will bridge the gap in governance and democratic deficits among the partner states. Differences in economic growth and strength of EAC partner states. The economies of partner states are growing at varying pace and have reached different levels of progress. The fear among those with fastest growing economies is that those economies growing at slow rate would derail their progress. On the other hand, the poor performing economies fear marginalization. No formula has been developed to address issues of equity in sharing the benefits accruing from integration without compromising the momentum of achievers. Public awareness about the integration process. The level of public awareness about the integration process remains low, and this has constrained East Africans from assessing opportunities and benefits accruing from the integration process. Committee observation. The committee observed that these concerns are very pertinent and crucial, and if no urgent measures are taken, they are likely to delay the realization of constitutional making process. Committee recommendation. Committee recommends to the Assembly to urge the Council of Ministers to examine the above-mentioned concerns and fears and devise mechanisms to address them. The level and nature of consultations, stakeholder consulted, and expectations of East Africans on the three pillars of integration. The committee observed that most of fears, concerns, and challenges expressed by East Africans about political federation appear to be related to misinformation and inadequate information dissemination about the pillars of integration and stages of implementation. Paramount to this is the weak public consultation process at partner states level, yet integration must be people-centered. Article 7 of the treaty requires close involvement of the people in the EAC process for it to be people-centered and owned. Committee recommendation. The committee recommends to the Assembly to urge the Council of Ministers to undertake a robust information and dissemination exercise aimed at ensuring that East Africans are constantly informed and updated on the East African integration process. Furthermore, the process of consultations should involve a wide range of stakeholders so as to enrich the process. Involvement of Eala as representatives of the people of East Africa. Up until the committee interacted with the Department of Political Affairs, there had been no involvement of Eala or the Committee of Regional Affairs in the processes of formulating the Constitution of East Africa. The lack of Eala's participation does not only deny Eala as a people's representative the opportunity to contribute to the process, but it also undermines Eala's statutory mandate of oversight of integration process. This situation is unacceptable as it is contrary to the promotion of good governance, including accountability and transparency, as stipulated in Article 6 of the treaty. Committee recommendation. The committee recommends to the Assembly to urge the Council of Ministers to ensure that as a matter of urgency, measures be undertaken to enhance the role of the Assembly and the Committee of Regional Affairs and Conflict Resolution in the constitution-making process to allow EAC legislative organ exercise its oversight and representative mandate. Necessity to revise the roadmap and methodology in view of COVID-19 related challenges. Just like any other EAC process or programs, the constitutional making process has been affected by COVID-19. The pandemic has not only limited the movements of constitutional experts, it has also affected the agreed and projected timelines, which have resulted into delayed realization of the constitution-making process. Committee recommendation. The associated challenges brought about by COVID-19 notwithstanding, the committee recommends that EAC should be proactive and embrace opportunities provided by digital technology to revitalize public consultation and guarantee that the process proceeds. This will entail revising the roadmap of drafting a model political confederation and adoption of new and relevant methodologies in view of the coronavirus pandemic. Concerns of delayed timelines and implication to the African Union Agenda 2063. Agenda 2063 is Africa Union's blueprint and a master plan for transforming Africa into the global powerhouse of the future. It is the continent's strategic framework that aims to deliver on its goal for inclusive and sustainable development and is a concrete manifestation of the Pan-African drive for unity, self-determination, freedom, progress, and collective prosperity pursued under Pan-Africanism and African Renaissance. The genesis of Agenda 2063 was the realization by African leaders that there was a need to refocus and reprioritize Africa's agenda from the struggle against apartheid and the attainment of political independence for the continent, which had been the focus of the Organization of African Unity, and instead to prioritize inclusive social and economic development, continental and regional integration, democratic governance, peace and security, amongst other issues. This would in turn reposition Africa to becoming a dominant player in the global arena. Agenda 2063 encapsulates not only Africa's aspiration for the future, but also identifies key flagship programs which can boost its economic growth and development and lead to the rapid transformation of the continent. Agenda 2063 also identifies key activities to be undertaken in its 10-year implementation plan, which will ensure that Agenda 2063 delivers both quantitative and qualitative transformation outcomes to the African people. Committee observation. The committee observed that the roadmap of the EAC Political Federation is way far behind the scheduled date of November 2025. The operationalization of confederation and ultimately political federation was not mindful of implications to the African Union Agenda 2063, and yet the EAC is a building block to the African Union integration. Committee recommendation. The committee recommends to the Assembly to urge the Council of Ministers to revise the roadmap so that it is aligned with the EAC Agenda 2025 and African Union Agenda 2063. Lessons learned and best practices on political confederation regionally and globally. The Secretariat was directed to formulate a model structure of political federation, and the model was considered by the 14th Summit of EAC Heads of State in 2012. Consultations were conducted in partner states on convergence and adopting a confederation model as a transitional model to political federation. The committee observed that when countries federate, there are various gains and advantages that accrue as a result. Furthermore, the past experiences and examples from other federations, like the European Union, can serve as an example to inspire and lead East Africa to EAC Political Federation. Election observation. Since 2007, the EAC has been involved in the election observation in the partner states in the fulfillment of provisions of Article 6D, 7 Clause 2 and 123C of the Treaty for the Establishment of the East African Community. Deployment of election observers in the EAC partner states is in line with the principles and values espoused by the EAC Treaty. In order to actualize a concrete framework and comprehensive policy, the principle for election observation and evaluation was concluded in November 2012. The objectives of this policy are to promote democracy, human rights, the rule of law within the EAC partner states. It also helps in contributing to strengthening democratic institutions, building, I think it's public accountability in general elections, as well as giving assurance for international standards. Thus, in pursuit of democratic governance, rule of law, peace, security, and stability in the region, the EAC deploys election observer missions to partner states' elections. The EAC observer missions aim at strengthening political accountability among its partner states and provide an opportunity for EAC partner states to document best practices and learn from each other with the view of improving future electoral processes and democracy in general. Objectives of the EAC election observation missions. In line with the EAC principles for election observation and evaluation, the objectives of the EAC election observation mission are to conduct a comprehensive analysis of the electoral process, i.e. pre-election period, election period, and post-election period, and offer an impartial, balanced, and informed assessment of the elections. Increase public confidence in the electoral process by encouraging the voters, political parties, and other stakeholders to participate freely in a fairly competitive environment free of intimidation and violence. Identify strengths, opportunities, challenges, and weaknesses that can be harnessed into best practices and lessons for the region through peer learning by the electoral management bodies, and assess the extent to which electoral outcomes reflect the will of the people of East Africa in line with international, continental, and regional norms and standards governing democratic conduct of elections. Mandate and framework for EAC observation mission. Apart from the international and regional frameworks, United Nations and African Union, the Treaty for the Establishment of East African Community 2000 provides for the mandate for the deployment of election observation missions to partner states. The EAC Principles for Election Observation and Evaluation 2012 provides guidelines for EAC election observation mission, code of conduct for EAC observers. The purpose of the mission is to enhance democracy, rule of law, and good governance, which are essential for sustainable political, social, and economic development of the EAC region. The EAC election observation mission are generally in two forms: long-term and short-term missions. On a few occasions, there can also be pre-election assessment missions. Technical mission. The technical or long-term mission works to gather information and background assessment of the context of the electoral environment and readiness of stakeholders for the conduct of a free, fair, credible, and peaceful election. The mission is composed of EAC Secretariat technical staff with the technical support of independent experts. The mission interacts with various stakeholders at technical level in order to appreciate the electoral environment and prepares the ground for short-term mission. Short-term mission. The short-term observer mission comprises of delegates from partner states, Eala, East African Court of Justice, and backed up by EAC Secretariat staff. Through the head of mission, the short-term mission engages with the electoral stakeholders in the period immediately before, during, and after elections. Past progress in election observation. Since 2007, EAC has deployed observation missions as follows. In 2007, it was the Republic of Kenya, 2010, Republic of Burundi and United Republic of Tanzania, 2011, the Republic of Uganda, 2013, the Republic of Kenya and the Republic of Rwanda, 2015, the Republic of Burundi and the United Republic of Tanzania, 2016, the Republic of Uganda, 2017, the Republic of Kenya and Republic of Rwanda, 2020, the United Republic of Tanzania, 2021, the Republic of Uganda. It is imperative to note that due to COVID-19, the restriction of travels across international borders, the EAC could not deploy a full mission in Burundi. However, small technical mission by EAC Secretariat engaged with stakeholders in the Republic of Burundi. The EAC Secretariat has just concluded conducting an election observer mission to the Republic of Uganda. Committee observation and recommendations. 1, there is need to harmonize the existing elections, policies, practices, and processes. Committee observation. The committee observes that conducting periodic and regular elections contributes to the promotion of democratic culture. Elections, if transparently conducted, promote and inculcate democratic values in election processes and gives the democratic exercise the legitimacy, acceptability, and consolidation of good governance in respective partner states. Committee recommendation. The committee recommends to the Assembly to urge the Council of Ministers to ensure that there is harmonization of existing legal framework, guidelines, and standards that govern the EAC election observation missions and harmonize them with the international practices to avoid any mismatch. The committee recommends to the Assembly to urge the Council to expedite the adoption of EAC protocol on good governance. Furthermore, the committee recommends that policies, processes, and practices of election observation and evaluation processes, as well as support to national electoral commissions, are identified as a key strategic intervention. Need for a holistic and comprehensive election observation mission. As earlier mentioned, the committee observed that EAC normally dispatches a technical observation team, but this again is not as comprehensive as it is supposed to be. The technical or long-term mission works to gather information and background assessment of the context of electoral environment and readiness of stakeholders to the conduct of a free, fair, credible, and peaceful election. For instance, the technical team for Uganda mission comprised of only 5 staff members, namely the principal political affairs officer, the peace and security expert, the principal legal officer, the program assistant, and the secretary. In most of the election observation mission, the EAC Secretariat has not complied with the election observation guidelines, Guideline 7, which outline the composition of EAC election observation missions. For instance, in the just concluded missions undertaken in the United Republic of Tanzania and Uganda, the observation team to a greater extent was dominated by non-core EAC staff who are not relevant to the mission. The team comprised of office messengers, secretaries, drivers, program assistants, etc. The team also had other professional staff not relevant to the mission. The management of election observation mission instead opted to make a trade for mandatory critical and statutory representation from the EAC youth ambassadors, the human rights institutions, and the civil society organizations for the above-mentioned EAC staff. Committee observation. The committee noted that election observers are dispatched 2 or 3 days before elections and have hardly enough time to prepare for election observation. It is evident from the above that the team is not representative of key stakeholders and at best is very lean to be able to undertake a countrywide exercise in gathering comprehensive and relevant data for observation mission. Omitting or the failure by the Secretariat to include representative of key stakeholders on the Election Observation Mission is not only contrary to the treaty establishing the East African Community, it is also rendering the entire process a nullity and thus attempting to erode the very core tenets and principles to which the framers of these processes envisaged. Committee recommendations. For future election missions, in planning for election observation, EAC should be mindful of the fact that elections are a process, not a one-day event. This calls for comprehensive preparation and careful planning, and further requires careful examination and analysis of the entire pre-election period, the voting day, and up to post-election developments. There is need to observe the elections in 3 phases of the election cycle. This includes the pre-election period, during elections, post-election period, counting and release of results, to be confident to report whether elections were credible, free, and fair. When the mission has been confirmed, appropriate personnel and relevant stakeholders must be carefully selected to ensure the mission goals are met. For comprehensive observation, this means assembling a team that involves all stakeholders as outlined in the EAC Election Observation Mission Code of Conduct. In addition, since this is a political process, Eala should play a critical role in all phases of election observation. Funding of election observation mission. For an election observation mission to be credible and gain universal acceptability, it is imperative that observer mission is represented, professionally competent, impartial, and the ability to map out a balanced geographical coverage. Suffice to note that effective election observation have financial implications. During engagement with officials responsible for EAC election management, the committee was informed that financial support for the election observation missions has been decreasing over the years. This has affected performance of the election observation missions. For instance, the committee was briefed that since 2020, the European Union has been funding the EAC election observation missions. This financing arrangement ended in 2017 after supporting observation missions to Kenya and Rwanda. A comprehensive EAC election observation mission requires not less than $500,000. The funding for observer mission reduced to $180,000 for the United Republic of Tanzania mission and a further $120,000 for the mission to the Republic of Uganda. Furthermore, the committee was informed that currently the Council has competing financial obligations that makes it difficult to allocate adequate budget for observer missions. Whereas the EAC Secretariat has been working hard to attract other potential donors for this purpose, it is critical that the missions are funded by ordinary EAC budget contributed by partner states. Committee observations. The committee observed that most of the previous election observation missions have already been donor funded, with the European Union taking the lead. It was, however, noted that the observation missions are not annual activities, hence the possibility to prioritize whenever an election process emerges in the partner states. Notably, the elections in the EAC partner states are periodic with clear and defined calendars and follow a defined cycle and are not an abrupt event. It is important, therefore, for the Council to prioritize the funding for the election observation mission. Committee recommendations. The committee recommends to the Assembly to urge the Council of Ministers to ensure adequate funding for the EAC election observation missions rather than relegating this important function to external partners. Development partners should only complement the EAC efforts. Election observation reports and reporting. The election observation missions have always come out with reports and recommendations for improvement in the conduct of elections, as well as consolidation of good governance and other democratic practices in the partner states. The report is adopted by the Council before forwarding it to the respective partner state. For this reason, the Secretariat is developing a monitoring framework for reporting on the implementation of the recommendation of the Election Observation Mission. The Assembly, on its part, can advocate for implementation of the recommendations of the Observation Mission, which ideally is a peer report of partner state delegates that observe elections. Tabling of the election observation reports before the Assembly. Committee observation. The committee observed that the election observation reports are prepared by the Secretariat and adopted by the Council before forwarding them to the partner state, leaving out the Assembly in the oversight and the approval process. This has denied the Assembly the opportunity to provide critical inputs to the report so as to enhance ideals of good governance and accountability. The committee further observes that the challenges and recommendations contained in these reports are often not addressed or implemented. Committee recommendations. The committee recommends to the Assembly to urge the Council of Ministers to ensure that the election observation reports are laid in the House prior to being forwarded to partner states. Strengthen Eala participation in the EAC election observation missions, effectively deliver on its cardinal function of oversight and representation. Eala should also work closely with the Secretariat to enhance its capacity of members with election observation skills. Conclusion. Political integration is a qualitatively deeper form of integration. Achieving it requires that the pillars of political federation, that is common foreign policy, peace and security, and good governance, are established and strengthened. It also requires structural transformation of regional policies, institutional arrangements, and capacities to support the deeper goal of development. However, the legitimacy and sustainability of the East African Political Federation will depend upon the extent to which development is achieved. What is critical for a successful federation is a positive environment characterized by, among other factors, a strong political will, commitment, people-led process, and the existence of viable regional structures. The political environment for the EAC should warrant stakeholders to engage in a robust constitutional making exercise which ensures a comprehensive consultative process with clear benchmarks for a model political confederation. Convergence by partner states on adopting a confederation as a transitional model to political federation is paramount in this regard. Last but not least, the political will of the citizens of Africa is manifested through the holding of regular, free, and fair elections that call for full participation of citizens and authentication by a comprehensive and yet an independent election observers team. This team should be guided by clear benchmarks, as is the case with EAC election observation processes. Furthermore, the recommendations from the observer teams should be the basis for improved actions. Recommendation: the report has been enriched and has borrowed practical solutions and best practices from various jurisdictions in the quest of developing a sound, progressive, and fast political confederation and election observation mission. The committee therefore recommends that the report be adopted. Thank you for your kind attention, honorable members.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable members, I now propose the motion that the report of the Committee on Regional Affairs and Conflict Resolution on the progress made by the community towards achieving the EAC Confederation Constitution and the EAC election observer missions be adopted. Debate is open. If you can mute your microphones, please. If you can mute your microphones, please. Yes, debate is open. Can you hear me, honorable members?
Yes, we can hear you. No hands are up.
Yes.
Yes, I can't see. Yes, I can't see some of the members on the screen. I don't know what is happening. Is that Honorable Makame?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Yes. Is there any other member who wants to speak?
My hand is up. Right,
yes,
Honorable.
Honorable Mary. Honorable Mary.
See.
I also. Yes. So we have Honorable Makame, Honorable Mary Mugenyi. Is there another member? You can shout out your name. Yes, Honorable Noor. Another member I have not seen.
Musamali.
Honorable Musamali. Yes. Okay, maybe we can start with that list. Honorable Dr. Makame.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the floor to add my voice onto this important motion that before your assembly. Mr. Speaker, from the outset, I'd like to commend the chairperson of the Committee of Regional Affairs and Conflict Resolution for coming with a comprehensive report on progress made by the community towards achieving the East African Community Confederation Constitution and the EAC observer missions. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to commend the work done by the members of this committee, led by the chair. And they have done a good job, especially considering the times that we are in. Mr. Speaker, coming with such a report means that they indeed labored to produce such a good piece of work. Mr. Speaker, we've had the presentation. I wouldn't like to repeat what the chairperson echoed and stated and made observations, but honestly, Mr. Speaker, these are the things which your assembly needs to be considering and deliberating, and also coming with clear recommendations and resolutions. Mr. Speaker, so having looked at the issues of electoral observers and electoral observer missions, we have seen the lack of proper engagement of our assembly by the fact that the reports are always channeled to the partner states, and the assembly does not even have time to consider the reports. And for that particular reason, on page 22, the report of the committee, in the committee recommendations, in the first bullet, it says the committee recommends to the assembly to urge the Council of Ministers to ensure that the election observation reports are laid in the House prior to being forwarded to partner states. Actually, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to move a motion, and I believe the chairperson is noting this, that this one should be amended, but should not only constitute laying, but they should be laid and deliberated. And if the chairperson thinks maybe that the deliberation is not necessary, then we can leave it to laying. But I thought the assembly, when the assembly deliberates a report, then members own the report and they get to know what happened in these important activities to mark the democratic process in our community. Mr. Speaker, elsewhere, we note that there's an issue on the protocol on good governance, and that is covered on page 8 of the report. and that the protocol is yet to be finalized. So the council should really take this matter seriously, and we have to have, we think it's in the interest of the community that that protocol is finalized. Mr. Speaker, due to the lack of time, and I believe there are some other members who want to air their voices as well, let me end off there, and I end off by stating that I fully support the report. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Dr. Makame. Honorable Mary.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I want to start by declaring my interest as a member of this Committee on Regional Affairs and Conflict Resolution. And I would like to take the opportunity to thank our chair and our clerks and members for this good report, because I believe it represents all our views and the way we wanted to get it presented. Thank you, Honorable Chair, for presenting this report well. I believe that the report speaks volumes and is very clear, and there is so much that has been touched and covered in this report. And sometimes one wonders whether when we legislators on behalf of the peoples of East Africa come up with reports like these, whether there is an opportunity for the East Africans, the people we represent, to have access to this information. Mr. Speaker, I would like also to emphasize two things. One from each area of this report, from the election observation and also from the political confederation. Mr. Speaker, I believe that it is very important that Eala is really involved in critical matters like this. For example, I would like to suggest that we get an opportunity as a house to have a meeting with a team of experts to first of all brief us on a number of things that are in this report. Quite frankly, if you look at the issues for political confederation that are crucial for the political confederation to work, I'm not so sure, and they're on page 4, that I actually do not need sensitization myself. I keep asking myself, what exactly is the difference, main difference, between a political federation and a political federation? And if me as a representative of the people is asking that question, what about the people that we represent? So I would like to request through you, Mr. Speaker, that we get an opportunity, we as Eala, to meet with a team of experts so that we can have an opportunity to ask these questions, to get further clearance, clarification, so that should the people of East Africa ask us questions about this important ongoing exercise on the political confederation of East Africa, we have clear answers and we can meet their expectations. Mr. Speaker, again, I would like to emphasize the fact that one way of bringing awareness to the people of East Africa is through the State of the Nation address that yearly the heads of states through the chair of the summit delivers to the people of East Africa. Right, Honorable Speaker, through you again, I would like to emphasize that it is important to have these State of the Nation addresses yearly so that the people of East Africa get to understand what is going on, what is the state of their community, and whether they should support or not support, or whether they should be involved further into the next pillar, which is the political federation. Mr. Speaker, there is no doubt that Eala needs to be involved in these public awareness and hearings that the team of experts is out to conduct right now. So let's not lose our mandate as Eala, as the advocates of the people, as people who speak for our communities. Let's be involved in this exercise. That I don't need to emphasize a lot. And lastly, or secondly, is the issue of election observation. I do also agree that it is important for the community through the Secretariat to find money and inject it in election observation missions so that we are not really at the mercy of donors. Should the donors not take interest in funding this election or the other, then it is not funded, or it is scaled down to a skeleton that ultimately does not make sense. So we need to find funding. Without money, it's not possible for us to deliver according to our plan. Let's put it on the budget, and I would like to request the Committee on General Purpose, when next they are scrutinizing the budget, to ensure that the election observation missions that are taking place next have a budget that is from the community itself. Then, of course, Eala needs to be involved. I think that one, Mr. Speaker, we don't need to labor it. There is no doubt that Eala needs to have more numbers, needs to start with the process of election observation, not just going last minute. Let's get to know how elections are being planned. Let's be able to visit electoral commissions in the partner states. Let's be part of it so that at the end, when we go to observe the election, we are not just looking at the surface, but we have gone deeper to understand how the election has been planned from the beginning, how it has been funded, how the countries have been going, and all that. And of course, there's a time, Mr. Speaker, we did ask you, as the leader of this House, an institution, that the Committee on Regional Affairs needs to really have representation and consider this election observation as an activity of this committee, as one of the things that we do. Just like the issues of the budget are an activity and a function of the General Purpose Committee and so on. The Committee on Regional Affairs needs to take center stage in the issues of election observation. I thank you, Honorable Speaker. It's about so much time that I have taken. I submit.
Thank you, Honorable Mary. And I suppose that your submission contains some of the proposed recommendations that the chair should not take note of them as a proposed amendment to the report, and you will make some pronouncement on them at a later point. Honorable Nur.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, for giving me the opportunity to contribute to this motion. Honorable Chair, I want to support the motion. And on the onset, I want to thank my chair, because I'm a member of this committee, and the Secretariat for a very good, elaborate job well done. I think it must be a very comprehensive report that has ever been produced since I joined EAC, or East African Legislative Assembly. Honorable Speaker, there are two issues which has just been reported or been deliberated upon. One is the political federation, and the other one is political election observation or election observers. From the word go, I want to say these two election observers is a very, very, very sensitive issue on its own. So we only just combined this because we had no any other room to report on election observation because it doesn't come to us. So we just only took it as a privilege or as an opportunity just to hide it under this political confederation. So I want to deal with the political confederation first. As usual, Honorable Speaker, we have found that the beginning of this process is always the protocol, which gives the mandate for this process to kickstart. If the protocol itself has not been signed and the experts have been appointed, how do they move forward? How do they move with this process? So it is always lack of commitments on some parts. So on the other hand, we have appointed the experts or the lawyers or the legal expert or legal minds. But we deny them the supporting staff, the secretariat to support this process. How do they work? Are we really willing that they should be able to work and finish this work or this job? And that aside, as usual, have delayed. The process is so much far behind as scheduled because we are supposed to achieve political confederation or political federation, which I, for one, I could not be able to understand the difference between the two because the target was 2025. And from where we sit and from where we are now, even the preliminary report has not been submitted. So I'm really serious on these issues of political confederation or political integration. So, Honorable Speaker, we want those people who have been delegated to this job to be serious on these matters. Because if we have to remain relevant and we have to remain as a community and we need to achieve the goals and the goods that we are supposed to do to achieve as a community, then we must be able to move with the speed and within the time frame that we have set for ourselves. We could not be able to even achieve one target of the 4 pillars up to now. So how serious are we on this issue, Honorable Speaker, is the question that we ask ourselves. And then there's this aspect of sensitizations or consultation that comes up every time. Who is supposed to sensitize the mass? In normal circumstances, in any other jurisdiction, so where I come from, it's always a political platform that sensitizes, or the people representative that sensitize the community that they were moving towards this direction through different platforms. But if there's that gap always as usual, that this becomes a confine of the secretariat and the committee of experts, then this process becomes a technical team. That is always a boardroom process. And a boardroom process in political process doesn't move together because we have to get these things out of the boardroom to the people who are supposed to consume. So these are the issues that we need to address ourselves. And the second issue is about the election observation. Honorable Speaker, from day one, the process is faulty in the sense that it is being left entirely to the Secretariat to handle that process. Not even the council involved, of ministers involved, no any other institutions of ESC involved, no summit involved, and it becomes a prerogative of an individual that at least you appoint at will, maybe your secretary, your messenger, as political observers. If you look at page 17 of the report, there's no two way about it. There's a technical mission, a so-called technical mission, and then there's a short-term mission. Why do you call it technical mission? Why don't you call it a long-term mission? Because if the short-term mission, then the other group should have been a long mission. But the fact that you call it technical, you are trying to evade the fact that you are really picking on whoever you want at will. Therefore, the appointment of more very critical person, like even head of the delegate, is being appointed by the Secretary General. Not even the Council of Ministers, or not even the chair of the council, not even the summit. Those are the issues that could have been handled by the summit, or the chair of the summit, per se, to appoint the head of the delegation. Because this is a very, very, very important institution or important exercise. Therefore, Honorable Chair, the other issue is about the reporting. I happen to be one of the members who went to Tanzania for election observation. After collecting the data and coming back from the field and reporting to the delegation, then we don't know what happened to those reports. It's good for the delegates even to look at the draft report and see really what we have observed and what we have seen and what we have reported is the fact that has been reported to the Secretary General as it is. And then where did the report go? How do we intend to improve and achieve what we want if these things cannot be discussed and approved and then goes through the normal process of EAC to the Council of Ministers and then to the summit, so that at least they can be able to disseminate those information to the electoral bodies of the relevant member states, so that we can be able to improve. The essence major issue of election observers is not just only to announce the result. It's not our mandate. It's a mandate of the electoral bodies. But ours is only to look at the gaps, so that at least the observation mission can be able to improve on the process, so that we can achieve fair, free, and transparent elections in this region in the near future. For Honorable Speaker, I think there's a lot to be done in this EAC in general. These very critical institutions that should have been moving forward are just stagnant, even in terms of funding. Funding is another problem. Because people just take it as a casual, as a normal thing. But this could be just even every financial year, whether we have election or not, even if we have a token in the budget, so that they can be accumulative as we move on. That from the contributions of the member state, we can be able to budget even $200,000 every financial year. And then it can be accumulative, because elections are not taking place every year. That is the worst scenario that we could be able to deal with what we have, rather than as we wait for another finance mechanism to finance this very important and critical process. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, I think we need to do a lot. I want the members to support this report and be given the importance it deserves. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Nur. The next is the Honorable Musamali, and then Honorable Kimbisa will follow.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity. And I also thank the chairperson and the Committee on Regional Affairs for the good report so far, amidst the serious challenge to produce this report. Mr. Speaker, I have a general observation in line with this particular report. We are looking at the report on the progress made by the community towards achieving the Confederation Constitution. Honorable Speaker, we have a serious challenge. Why are we working on having the Confederation Constitution, the Constitution for the Confederation, when we have not achieved the rest of the pillars? You see, when you go to digging, those of us who have been digging, you dig systematically. You don't dig here, then you jump there, you go there. You will leave that place untilled. Now, this is exactly what we are doing. And I want the chairperson of council to take note of this. We go to page 4 of the report. It is in the introduction, I think it is 4.1, brief history of the concept of political federation. But I think towards the end of the first paragraph, the committee notes very well and says that there were many reasons for the collapse of the first community, but they largely stemmed from political differences between the erstwhile leaders and perceptions around unfair distribution of the benefits and costs of regional integration. Right, Honorable Speaker and the Chair Council, the good thing you are there and you are observing very well. The Honorable Makame Abudala moved a motion in our house urging the council to come up with a report on how far they have gone with implementation of the Common Market Protocol, as well as the Customs Union and the Common Market Protocol. Council has not brought this report to this house. As we talk, Honorable Speaker, the implementation of the Customs Union Protocol is still having challenges. Partner states are introducing barriers day in and day out. The people of East Africa, remember that this integration is anchored on its people-centered and private sector-led. The people of East Africa are not trading. They are, because partner states are introducing barriers day in and day out. They use whatever reasons they have and they introduce it. Now, people are not trading. And now, Common Market Protocol, we have not implemented it, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know which percentage we have so far implemented in as far as the Common Market Protocol is concerned. Now, when you talk of a community being people-centered and private sector-led, where is the private sector there? Where are the people there? People are not traveling to partner states. People are not going to, are not trading freely. They are arresting people. They are stealing goods. In Uganda, I'll give an example. We produce excess milk now, and the Republic of Kenya has been denying the people of Uganda from selling latto in Kenya. We are not selling the sugar. In Tanzania, we had a problem of selling sugar in Tanzania. We have a problem of selling eggs. And the traders in Kenya want to buy eggs from Uganda. But the government is stopping now. And the government now, so what is the problem? And why are we in this thing? And you saw in this report, they are saying that the first community collapsed because we are not sharing the benefits. We are not sharing opportunities. Now, when we urged the council to come with a report on how far they have gone with implementing the Customs Union and the Common Market Protocol, they haven't brought this report, such that we know where we are. We are talking of implementing, actualizing the Monetary Union Protocol. There are laws that are meant to facilitate the implementation of that protocol. Honorable Speaker, we passed the Monetary Institute. We passed the Monetary Institute bill. We also passed the Statistics Bureau bill. And to the best of our knowledge as a House, the Statistics Bureau bill has not been assented to, because some of the partner states, one or two of the partner states, have not assented to that bill, and therefore it's not complete. Now, you are talking of Chair Council. You are now jumping and going to work on writing a constitution. Now, this constitution is going to be to govern who? It is not necessary to have this constitution. Because why you haven't implemented the customs union? Now we are going to govern who? I think there's a problem. Council should reconsider, because now the money which we are spending on work on producing this constitution, this money would do something else. In the report, we are saying one of the problems we have is money. Now we are spending it on drafting the constitution, which is going to be a lame duck in terms of implementation. So what are we doing? So I want the chair council to take note of this, that if I'm not mistaken, we don't need to begin rushing. Let us implement pillar by pillar. When we realize the first two pillars and the third one, then now it will be necessary to have a constitution. If, by the way, Britain exists without a written constitution, we can even trade without, we can even exist without a constitution. So for me, I am not very comfortable with the process, with the process, by the way, of writing a constitution for the Confederation, when in actual sense, we have not implemented the other protocols. I wanted this to be taken note of by the Chair Council and any member of Council who is here, and even the House. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Musamari. Honourable Kimbisa. Honourable Kimbisa, can you hear me?
Struggling with, sorry. Okay. I was struggling with my, sorry, Chair, this is technical.
Okay, you have the floor.
Honourable Speaker, thank you very much for giving me the floor. From A1, I would like to commend the chair of the committee and the team for the job well done. Honourable Speaker, political integration was seen, and I think seen as a fourth pillar of integration. And it has and still has the advantages. And one of the biggest advantages to make sure at least the people of East Africa do advance economically. That's the bottom line, and that's the top line. And because of all those advantages, the earlier leaders of the time saw it was very important, and they're all talking about something called fast tracking of political federation. So the term by that time was fast tracking. And a lot of people are singing about fast tracking of political federation. Now, after that song, somewhere, sometimes, the speed and the mood of fast tracking started going down. And this was culminated by the summit in 2017 May, if I'm not mistaken, whereby now, instead of talking about political federation being fast-tracked, I think the gear was changed somewhere in the airborne, and it came out to something called political confederation. From political federation to political confederation. Somebody asked, what does all these terminologies mean between political federation and political confederation? In a nutshell, political confederation is a little bit far less than a political federation in the process. While less, political confederation is a pathway, it's a transitional, it's less binding, somehow voluntary. And of course, the decision making also is by consensus. So it's not as binding, it's not as serious as the political federation. Of course, the reasons advanced by that time, and I think are still valid, is that it will give people, through political confederation, it will give people a bit of time to engage them. East Africa should be engaged. because the first EAC broke because it was not people-centered. Maybe it was leader-centered. This time around, it has to be people-centered. So if we come up with a political confederation, it will give enough time for people of East Africa to be engaged and therefore to say something about their direction, where they're going. Well, good. If that is the case, one can buy the point that let the people of East Africa be engaged so that at least they can chart their direction into political federation. But this thing called the political confederation, my worry, much as it will be used to energize people, to inform people, to sensitize people, and give them power to come up with a direction. But at the same time, Honorable Speaker, it can also be used to delay, deal dialing, not going forward, time wasting, because we are busy with political confederation, which is not binding, which is not very much serious. It can also be used not for people of East Africa to get what they wanted. They wanted political federation. But how long will this political confederation take? Is there a timetable? When should it end? So that we can go from political confederation to political federation. So this is another problem whereby if it is not well managed, it can be used as an excuse not to reach political federation. But also, I can sense that if there is no political will, it can be seen funding for it is, we heard, it's a problem. Who is going to fund it? Like I said, we want something, very much interested in something, but we are not interested to fund it. So if it wishes and the fantasies are not good enough, unless it's coupled with implementation and funding to the letter, so that at least this process can reach the ultimate end where the East African want to go. So funding also is a problem. Unless and until we want something, also we commit ourselves into funding it so that we can see the good results for our people. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you so much, Honorable Kimbisa. Is there a member I have not seen that wanted to debate? Okay, then we, yes? Oh, Honorable Engineer Mnya, yes. Engineer Mnya.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Let me first commend the report, comprehensive report by the committee for the good work done. And actually, I would like to borrow or to support first what have been said by Honorable Musamali. And the inclusion of what Honorable Musamali has said, which I totally support, that we are still doing politics in this so-called confederation. Honorable Speaker, if you follow the report, from what it has been said from the 18th Ordinary Summit in 2017, 19th Summit of February 2018, 20th Ordinary Summit of 1st February 2019, to date, actually, the team of experts or the Council of Ministers, it seems yet we have not been following and we have not been executing, or they have not been executing what it has been directed by the government. Now, we can ask ourselves, years are passing, nothing has been done. But also years are passing, we have not even trying to observe, or we have not found out if really have we fulfilled the original process of this community regarding custom union, regarding common market protocol, regarding how far even this monetary. Now, one is a confusion that can we really, shall we really able, are we really serious? If the question of sovereignty is a problem yet, the question of sovereignty, and can we really be able for the political federation? The confederation seems that to make constitution and a lot of things that the confederation is something that one is a voluntary, or people can expel if they do not execute the constitution. Why before that confederation? We are failing in our budget. The funding, the budget funding is still a big problem. Partner states, they are not doing their obligation for contribution. If you are failing in our budget, are we really talking about confederation or federation? And I don't think, Mr. Speaker, that we are being informed the truth, the real. We are still playing each other. If this community, we cannot fund our budget properly, partner states are not contributing as required, I don't see the way that we can have a federation or confederation. If today we have not assessed how far have we done with the custom, with the common market, and now we want to move to the even no confederation, no federation we will manage. I think we must be really serious about these things, and we have to be informed properly. The report, according to the observations, is fine, but also the report should be really critical, should be very open. As we have, as members of parliament, we have really to advise our council ministers the reality, rather than hiding some information, which is the truth, whereby if we really need to move forward. The issue of sovereignty should have more discussion. Are we really prepared? Mr. Speaker, with that short submission, I submit. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Engineer Nya. Is there a member have not in? And I want to remind you, honorable members, that we no longer finish at 6:30. Nowadays we finish at 5. So, and I think there is a reason why we said we should finish at 5. And those reasons are still very valid. So I will pick another list of members, but please be brief so that I don't get into a situation where I have to cut you short. Yes, Honorable Fancy, Honorable Mariam, Honorable Francoise.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for giving me the chance also to contribute in this report. First of all, I would like to declare I am a member of the committee and I was in the process of making this report. Right Honorable Speaker, EAC is the community that focuses on people and make sure that the business is facilitated at the fullest. That is why we have the slogan that we have in our community, people-centered and the rest. But very unfortunate, our people are not aware of why we have this community, are not not aware what are the benefits are they going to get from this community. Right, Honorable Speaker, our people that the community is focused on are not even aware what is the importance of having this community. And if you ask me, this is not a good sign. If our people does not know what is the importance of having this community that we have. In our deliberation in the committee level, the facilitator that came to give us information about political federation agree that there is no enough awareness made to our people. So for these reasons, I think our people should be made aware before going to the further stages of political federation. First of all, we need to make them understand why we have this community, what are the benefits, and what role do our people play in this community. Another thing, Right Honourable Speaker, in political will. It's the question that we have every single day. Are our leader having the political will in this? Is still having a lot of question mark. I think Council Chair is taking a note of this question. Is there a political will in this? Or we are still asking ourselves a lot of questions. And another thing is consultation that was made to the stakeholder. I think the consultation was not enough because even as Eala, the people representative, were not consulted in when they were making the consultation. Right, Honourable Speaker, lastly, I would like also to touch about election observation. Normally, a process of election is a long process that is taking from the start to the voting day. But I believe what we are supposed to observe is during the election, the voting day. When you read on the page 17, 622, the short-term mission, normally they go only, I think, for 4 or 3 days, and then coming back, believing that they have observed the process and they can contribute on the report to determine whether the election conducted in a certain partner state was fair and free election. I think we need to look at this this area very careful. If we really need, if you really mean to go and observe, we really need to look on what we observing. What do we want to observe? If we want to observe the election, then our people should go like other blocks, like SADC. We see them in all the campaigns. They are running around the EU, but EAC only 2 days before end of the election, and they are gone. I think, Right Honourable Speaker, after saying that, I would like to support and support the report, and thank you very much for giving me the chance.
Thank you very much, Honourable Francis. Honourable Mariam? Honourable Mariam.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker. Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes. I can hear you. And I believe others can hear you also. Proceed.
Am I Right Honourable Speaker? Yeah.
You heard very clearly,
forgive me to Thank you. Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I want to do one comment, especially for my colleague there, Honourable Fan, to finish speaking. Normally, because as a member, I have attended more than 4 election observation missions through EAC and Eala. I believe this time maybe the problem of funding has crippled this exercise, but normally the election observation mission for EAC
and Eala is 10 days. We go few days prior, we get all the information from all partner states, then we are at the election day, we are also getting all the information in all stakeholders in the government of those partner states. So before the election, normally we are all well informed, everything including election laws and all the multi-partyism politics that we have in the partner states. So this time, maybe because of the constraint of the budget, the team went for to observe election for lesser days. But normally we go for 10 days. Once the election is done, we stay to counting and also to give the report after the whole process. This is just information I was trying to give to show that EAC and Eala have been properly observing the EAC elections missions in all the partner states. My main point is on the issue of political federation or confederation. Honorable members, I believe, and I think I will bring the question to the floor, because as the report keeps saying, there is a lot of summit decisions that were relayed or were given to the Council of Ministers to the issue of political federation or political confederation. But also, Right Honorable Speaker, honorable members, we should not be pessimistic. We have to be optimistic, because EAC has survived 20 years of existence. We've been cooperating, and the issue of educating or knowledge to the partner states on the issue of integration process is the both side issue. Each partner state by treaty is supposed to make sure its population is well informed on the opportunities and the EAC integration process. But for us, member, we also have to do education as well through all our programs. We are crippled by budget, as you all know, but we take this responsibility from both sides, as Eala member, as EAC itself, and as partner state. There were a lot of programs, especially in Tanzania, TV programs, newspaper programs, explaining so many things about the EAC and its integration benefits. So I believe we should be optimistic. This is our own integration process, and it can be done, because, as you know, I'm from Zanzibar, and we are URT, United Republic of Tanzania, because we've been in the integration process for more than 50 years.
Information, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Mariam, are you taking information?
Yes, I have, yes.
Honorable Mnya.
Mr. Speaker, I fail to understand the position of Honorable Mariam now in this debate. Is she speaking as a council minister or a member of parliament? Because what is asking for us, what we commented is regarding the report and the whole process of federation to federation. We cannot build a house if the foundation is poor. That's what we are commenting. So, but he's trying to tell us that.
So, Honorable Mnya, now which information have you given?
Is she acting at this debate as a member
of council? Is that information or is it a question?
Maybe whether we call it a question, I want to know from Honorable Mariam.
Actually, the totality of what you have done is just to interrupt her debate, because you have not given any information. Yeah, you disagree with her point of view. That's fine.
Point of order. Yeah. Point of order. Point of order.
Yes, Honorable.
I think Honorable Munya has a point, Honorable Chair, Honorable Speaker, because the issue of relevancy is what is very critical.
Honorable Nur, I did not say he has no point, but he drew my attention to the fact that he wanted to provide information. And there is a way we provide information. Yeah. When a member is on the floor, there is a way we provide information.
Honorable Chair, it was not information. It is true. I think you are right on that one. maybe he just missed the point. But the issue is,
Yeah, but during his substantive debate,
yes,
he made his point very well.
What Honorable
and another member is making her point, and they don't have to make the same point.
Well, if I think Honorable Speaker, what we are trying to question is the relevancy of what Honorable Mariam was trying to contribute, because what we are debating is the report before us. And the report tells us the gaps that is existing in the process of political federation. And if Honorable Mariam says we are on track, then she should oppose the report. Otherwise, in that absence, then I think we get lost in between. Because the way she speaks, she's saying everything is okay. The report is saying everything is not okay. So the relevancy of a discussion on the report, then either she opposes or she supports. If she supports, then I think the report is very critical about the gaps and the failure of the process in political federation. And if otherwise, then I think the only alternative is to oppose the report.
Well, Honorable Mariam declared initially. Are you a member of the committee, Honorable Mariam? Okay.
No, I'm not a member.
Okay, that's fine. Honorable members, you know, this report is not a sharp verdict on whether we are on track or not. It is an assessment of the situation, of how we are proceeding, and the challenges we are facing, and how we can navigate around them. So even the debate is expected to explore all those angles. It is not a sharp divide. We have failed, we have nothing to do. Yeah, no, that's not the case. And that's not how I understood the report. We are moving, we have challenges, we have ways to fix, and this is how we can fix them. That is why the report has a recommendation. So, Honorable Mariam, you can proceed and conclude. And as I said, time is not on our side. Honorable Mariam,
thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for your guidance. I was actually finished. Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for your guidance. I was actually trying to finish, but because I was given information, I will just declare. Maybe they're having a good premonition for me. I'm just declaring I'm not a minister. I'm not representative of any ministry. I'm just here representing as a member of not anything. What I was trying to explain, which I will be brief again. I support the report. The report has a lot of mishap, has a lot of problem, as you said, and that's my point I was making. We should not despair, and that is why I said I will put a question. I wanted to finish my sentence by saying all these summit deliberations that seemed not being taken care of in this report. I was finalizing by saying we shall put the question to the Council of Ministers on the floor. We have that procedure. We can ask them to give us detail. Honorable members, we should also be aware that there is a constitutional review that has been going on for some time to cure all these problems. And that's all I was trying to explain. Normally, when I contribute, I try also to give information as a former member. That's why I give also information of election observation process timeline. I thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, and I support the report. Maybe Honorable Mia should pray for me so that I become minister. Thank you.
Thank you. And initially, I thought you were in the same place in Zanzibar, because then you seem to be in different locations. But Honorable Munya was trying to warm up the discussion. Honorable Francoise, and the last on the list. Honorable Francoise.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to add my voice to the ones of the previous speakers. I also commend the work done by the Committee of Regional Affairs and the Conflict Resolutions under the leadership of Honorable Ambassador Fatuma Ndangiza. Congratulations, dear members, for the work well done. The report is well elaborated and clear, especially as far as recommendations are concerned. It really attracted my attention as far as the lack of expertise in election mission observations are concerned, especially where it talks about staff of secretariat not having these expertise, as well as Eala members. And I appeal right now, supporting the report, that these requests in the report be granted by the Council of Ministers and being taken as a matter of emergency. Mr. Speaker, peace transition in this community is paramount, especially concerning the pre, during, and post elections. I'm saying this because as a member of GP committee, General Purpose Committee, dealing with the budget of the community, among other funds, we have observed that the stage concerning the pre-election preparations was skipped. There was no funds about that. And this was a concern of the URT and also Republic of Uganda, these past elections. And it was a very difficult to predict the future. And as we can agree, if we don't plan, we fail to plan, and then we can't achieve our goals. There is a say, if I can say it the way it is said, it's said, if we fail to plan, then we plan to fail. And I can say that in this community, we observed many domains where people of the community are really missing to comply with the provisions of the treaty. And I can mention one aspect that is hampering the development of achievement in this community. In the treaty, I have the treaty here with me, Article 15, sub-article of the treaty, about the issue of consensus. We cannot achieve the full integration and under these 4 pillars with this issue of consensus. Because if even we compare our family of EAC as our only family, whereby we have 6 kids, as parents, we cannot just wait for 1 kid to say no, and then everything is not put to implementation. Other 5 kids cannot eat, cannot be dressed, cannot be given responsibilities because 1 kid has said no. And if I compare this, under Article 153 of the treaty also, there is an aspect that confuses me always on page 116 of the treaty. This is the last page of the treaty, whereby I can read depository and registration. I'm only reading 3 countries that have signed, and this since 1999 year. I'm wondering what happened. 3 more countries have joined, and only 3 partner states have ratified the treaty. And I think it's time for the Council of Ministers, jointly with the summit, to revise this treaty. At the same time, add 3 partner states that have joined after these partner states: Republic of Uganda, the Republic of Kenya, and the Republic of Tanzania, to add our brothers or sisters, if I can say that we can move together in brotherhood and sisterhood, but to honor the issue of consensus by allowing the community to move for the integration of fully integration of 6 partner states. Mr. Speaker, having said that, I submit this and urge really the Council of Ministers to look at this. Amendments are needed in some corners of this treaty to allow integration in this committee. I submit, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Francois, I just want to clarify about the signatures on the treaty. Ordinarily, these signatures cannot change. I think what happens is the subsequent signatures by those who join later are annexed. But the original version remains the same. And when there is an amendment, it is also indicated on the first page of the document. So that is the standard. Now, before I invite the Council Chair, there is something I have noted. I thought it would come through the debate, but I think you need to give it attention. On page 19, when the committee was making their case or their point about the involvement, the way the election observation teams should be constituted, there is a phrase that I think you need to remove, where you say it renders the entire process is a nullity. So that would mean even these other observation teams that we have been to are a nullity. No, the teams were not properly constituted according to the report, but observations took place and the reports were produced, and these are the teams that were led by former heads of state and the other prominent political. So it cannot be completely zero, because if you say it is a nullity, it means it shouldn't exist at all. So I think that wasn't not the intention of the committee. It was a lapsus of language. So you can find a way to correct that, so that you maintain the point that the electoral observation reports that were produced are actually valid reports, but you still maintain the point that the teams were not properly executed according to the provisions that you have quoted. Isn't it clear, honorable members, that clarification?
Honorable Chair,
Yes.
Honorable Speaker.
Yes. Honorable Nur.
I agree with you that one nullity may be a very hard, but is it the process which is being talked about, the nullity or the report? Because
if the process is a nullity, the product cannot be different.
Be legal.
Yes.
Okay, fine. Agreed. And then I think then we have to make it in an amendment form, and then I leave that to the chair maybe to look for a better word than a nullity. But Honorable Chair, on 22, there's a very critical issue that was proposed. I don't want it to be just become an oversight on the chair's part. So it is the first recommendation. The committee recommends to the Assembly to urge the Council of Ministers to ensure that the election observers reports are laid in the House for debate and approval prior to the being forwarded to the partner state. I think it should not be forwarded to the partner state. I think we need to go through the normal process of maybe forwarding to the submit, so that it reaches the partner state in that format. So because we have no issue of direct reporting to the partner state or dealing with the partner state as an assembly. So that recommendation needs to be amended in a format that at least once it comes to the council from the observer mission.
Honorable Nur, let's conclude. You can move an amendment to that. But I had actually wanted to seek some clarification on this. Is it a possibility for you, honorable senior members who have been in parliaments for a long time, Honorable Nuru, Honorable Rosie, Honorable May, those who have been there before, is it possible that a report like the ones we have for election observation, which is not entirely a Eala report, it is the EAC report, because even the team is led by a non-member. How do we lay it in Eala? How do we lay it? Is it a possibility that a non-Eala report can be laid by who and under what procedure now?
Under the procedure, Honorable Chair, I think if you have asked for that, I think this report can be tabled by the council, because the executive can also move a motion for debate by the House, not only bills. Even the policy papers are being debated by the Assembly, and they concur or approve, and then the process goes on. So I think, I don't know what the treaty says, but when the Secretariat hand over the report to the Council, then the Council can move it on the floor as a motion, so that it can be deliberated by the House.
Well, Anki, we get to the principle, then the procedure can be considered. The principle is there. Thank you, Honorable Nur. Honorable Chair, Council.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Followed the discussion findings of the committee with attention, because achieving a political federation is the goal of this community and the great expectations of EAC citizens. Mr. Speaker, I want to inform the House that the forthcoming Council of Ministers will discuss the progress report on the drafting of EAC Confederation Constitution, and will consider, among others, 1, partner states' contributions to special fund finance the development of the Constitution of EAC Confederation, and 2, the proposed budget of 4.529 million to support the Constitution development process up to adoption of the same by the summit of the heads of state. Mr. Speaker, I want to make 2 comments, particularly to the debate that I have keenly followed. One is the issue of the political will. We have no doubt that this will is there. I think the problem is always interpretation, or maybe the invocation of the will to different constraints that face the community, which we have to work off. Number 2, the issue of consensus. Mr. Speaker, if you remember when I did swear in and become next official of this institution, I raised this issue with the consensus. And for almost 6 months I've been with you, I found a problem in whatever we do, ranging from acceptance of a simple payment of X amount until everybody agrees, to even passing a resolution to what we are doing. If one refuses, everybody has refused. It's an issue that we need to think about. Otherwise, we should go back and forth. Most times, spending money for no value and wasting our time in the process. So we really need to go out to think of this consensus. Because most of the regional integration I have known, they take majority, not consensus. It does not work, it won't help us much. Mr. Speaker, this is my contribution, and I still believe that we need to resolve this issue that is impeding our decision making. Mr. Speaker, regarding the deficiencies in the electoral observers' missions, I've taken note of the committee's observations, which will be considered when the reviewing of the Secretariat report on the recently concluded elections observer missions in the United Republic of Tanzania and Uganda are tabled to the Council of Ministers later this month. Mr. Speaker, I beg it from me.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable Council Chair, thank you. So, Honorable Ambassador Fatuma, you have 80 minutes remaining. Maybe you can spend less than that so that we finish on time without having to extend.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Maybe I'll start with the comment that you gave me, but at the outset, I would like to thank all the members for the very good contributions and also the debate on the report. It was also a very difficult report for us because we also had sentiments, and I'm glad to inform that most of the issues you raised, the pros and cons on political federation, confederation, whether we need to go that route or we first concentrate on the first 3 pillars of integration, issues of sovereignty, political will. Most of these issues were raised by East Africans during the consultations on a report dubbed Fears, Concerns of East Africans about Political Confederation. So even honorable members in this house also have the same fears. So I think what we are discussing is healthy. But I also want to clarify that, as you saw the title of the report, it is the progress. We did an oversight on the progress on constitution making of the political confederation, of the EAC, and also the observer mission. So whatever is here is what we found out during the oversight. So it's not something that we invented as a committee. And I think this is the role of the Assembly and its committees to undertake oversight. And secondly, as a community, we agreed that we have to undertake the 4 pillars of integration. So whereas we might be uncomfortable here and there, but I think there was made by our heads of state and we have to address some of the challenges. But even through interaction with the EAC officials, we realize that there is also progress that has been made in various areas. There were some recommendations or areas for amendment that were proposed by honorable members. Honorable Makame, he proposed that we shouldn't only lay the report, but the report should also be debated. And I think it's in one of the recommendations. The review of the committee is that we can take up this amendment. And as the Right Honorable Speaker advised, probably we see how it can be done, who does it. Because normally the council, they always present a report on foreign affairs and security situation. If we want, it could also be integrated in that report of the council. So I think modalities on how it can be done can be discussed, of course, respecting also the way council conducts its business, but it was a strong view of the committee, and it's also coming here that it should be tabled, but also debated. So we take up this recommendation. There was also a recommendation, I think it also confirms what is here on the protocol on good governance that has to be finalized. Honorable Mary talked about the need to have the public to have access to Eala reports. I think this is a good recommendation. And also the need to utilize the state of EAC address for awareness raising. I think this is also a good recommendation. The issue of funding for election observer missions, so that we do not only rely on external funding, has been brought up by more than one member, Honorable Mary, Honorable Noor, I think even Honorable Ibisa.
So unless someone, unless a member moves to suspend Rule 6, then you have to close.
Just
one
one
member willing to suspend Rule 6, so we can let her finish her submission. Is there a member who can move to that effect? Yes, Honorable Noor.
Yes,
Is there a member to second? Honorable.
Yeah,
okay, Honorable Dr. So, honorable members, those in favor of suspending Rule 6 for the chair to conclude her remarks, raise your hands. Thank you. Those against, raise your hands. Those in favor have it. Now you can conclude your remarks, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. So I was saying that the issue of funding for election observer mission from the ordinary budget of the community was raised by more than one member, and I think it's important that this important process be funded by our community. The issue of timelines and also sensitization was also raised by more than one member, Honorable Noor, Honorable Fancy. So I think these are important recommendations, raising awareness and also to see that timelines that have been set by the summit and the council are respected. The other issue that was raised by Honorable Msamari and also Honorable Noor, they were really questioning whether we have to prioritize political confederation and the constitution making process, we first consolidate the 3 pillars of integration, and also requesting the council, it has also been done some time back, to report on the pace of integration and also the achievements with regard to the first 2 pillars of integration and also the monetary union. I think this was also raised in one of our recommendations, that whereas we have to fast track political confederation, but the council should go back to the drawing board to ensure that the 3 pillars of integration, really to have a sense of where we are as a community, achievements, challenges, and probably we can build on that. So there was a strong recommendation around that. Then Honorable Munya also raised the issue of sovereignty. And I think these issues were raised to the council chair, but he said he will be raising it again when they meet as a council. But issues of sovereignty, issues of political will, issues of ceding political power and the fears around it, as I said, were raised in the consultation that was done by the work. I think there was a committee that was set, a task force that was set in 2009 by the council, just to understand integration, where we are and how people view it. And I think this could have been the basis for the summit also, to be realistic and adopt the confederation instead of the immediately going to the federation, because concerns and issues were so many and worrying, and therefore probably they thought if it can be done as a transition, start with confederation and then ultimately political confederation. So whatever you see here has been inspired by various reports, as I already mentioned it in my presentation. So Honorable Mariam, I think she shared her experience on the electoral process, but she also wanted members to be optimistic about the process. And Honorable Francoise was supportive, but also raised the need to amend the treaty with the more countries joining the community. So I didn't, but there was also Honorable Kimbisa. I was so much, I think it was a very good analysis on the background of integration, political federation, how it started, the aspirations we had to fast track the process. But now he showed concern that we might be watering it down to going to confederation. He also raised the issue of political will and the need to fund implementation of the process. Some of the issues that you raised, we also deliberated on them during our discussion, but it's important to understand this historical background, to see lessons learned and see areas for improvement. So honorable members, I really want to take this time to recognize honorable members who participated. Honorable Makame.
Members who contributed.
Yes, who contributed. Thank you. Honorable Makame, Honorable Mary Mugenyi, Honorable Noor, Honorable Msamari, Honorable Kimbisa, Honorable Munya, Honorable Fancy, Honorable Mariam, and Honorable Francois. I hope I didn't forget anyone. And of course, Honorable Chair of Council, and also Right Honorable Speaker, you also made a recommendation that you work on the issue of nullity.
No, I was guiding.
Observation.
I was guiding. The Hansard shouldn't take me as
okay.
The motion.
Yeah, that was a good guidance, and we take note of that. The intention of the committee was to balance the report, but we shall improve on the language. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair, Ambassador Fatuma. Now, honorable members, I propose the question that a report of the Committee on Regional Affairs and Conflict Resolution on the progress made by the community towards achieving the EAC Confederation Constitution and the EAC Election Observer Missions as amended be adopted. Those in favor, raise your hand. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Those against, raise your hands. Those in favor have it. Thank you, Chair and members of the committee. I think this is one of the sessions where we have debated issues that touch at the core business of this assembly and the community at large. So I thank you, first of all, for the choice of activity and for the way you undertook the activity and the report you have given us. So the task ahead of us is to devise the way to see how we can pursue further the actionable points that the committee has raised and take them to another level. So I thank you, honorable members, and this brings us to the end of our session today. I adjourn the House until tomorrow at 2:30. House adjourned.